Now I descend upon a great volcanic giant in the Cascade Mountains of Washington. Mount Rainier heaves to over 14,000 feet into the sky from near sea level. Here, fire truly meets ice. Mount Rainier is an active volcano with almost 30 glaciers surrounding 2 venting craters at its summit. I've come here because there are few mountain ecosystems as diverse as this. Upon this giant lives lush, old-growth forest, inhabited by a diverse and downright bizarre mix of animals. Although my adventure on Mount Rainier will take an unexpected turn, I've come here in search of an animal called Dicamptodon, also known as the giant salamander. It'll require hiking up the mountain to just below snowline, where I'll search for it around snowmelt streams. Now for this expedition, I've got a fully loaded pack. I've got cold weather clothes, warm weather clothes, survival gear, all my camera gear, and video camera gear. And the trail is straight up from here, so this isn't going to be one of the easier hikes, but it's going to be worth it. The real challenge is that I'll only be here for 3 days filming. Unlike most salamanders, the giant salamander can be found high on mountainsides, often beneath ice and snow. To climb a mountain is like traveling across a continent. For every 1,000 feet gained in elevation, you enter a different habitat. I start out near sea level in the lowland old-growth forest, where it's warm and humid. Here, 10-foot wide, 250-foot tall trees tower above the mossy, fern-covered forest floor. Hanging lichens like witch's hair and old man's beard drape from immense western red cedars and Sitka spruce. Ancient things grow to magnificent proportions in this mystical forest. It's like walking through Middle Earth. If I could close my eyes and imagine a dream world, this is as close as it comes in real life. Living at high altitude in my home of Colorado has helped my lung capacity greatly in hiking up this giant. As I approach 4,000 feet, I enter the cool, less humid, subalpine zone. The forest changes. Well, I've been hiking up the side of Mount Rainier all day, and as you can see, it's amazing how dramatically the environment changes when you hike up the side of the mountain for a few hours. We're no longer in that lush, warm, lowland forest, but as you can see, the trees have gotten sparser and thinner, and they're not as tall. It's almost like we've gone into the Canadian boreal forest. In fact, gaining elevation on the side of a mountain is the same thing as traveling hundreds of miles north into Canada. So, we're not far from snowline, and this trip has been great so far, except I'm completely eaten up by mosquitoes. Well, this is about the end of the road. The snow line. The trail is completely lost. I hike back down to just below snowline to find a clear place to set up camp close to water. Welcome to my humble cabin in the woods. Well, it's about 8 o'clock and I've set up camp next to a little stream over here, which I've spent the better part of the evening looking for giant salamanders in, and no luck so far. But I think I'm gonna head out in a little bit with my headlamp after it gets dark, because they are nocturnal. But for now, I'm just gonna sit here and be eaten alive by the mosquitoes, and maybe see if Sasquatch wants to come over for some drinks and TV. I spend another 2 hours after dusk looking beneath logs in the forest and walking up and down the stream flipping rocks. Well, no luck, which worries me because this is the perfect place and the perfect time to find giant salamanders. And there's also some other salamanders that live around here that I found no sign of. So for now, all I can do is eat dinner. You know, out of all the adventures I've been on so far, this has exhausted me the absolute most. And it's not even from hiking up the side of Mount Rainier, really. It's just from walking up and down that stream, flipping every single rock so many times. Well, I'm on my way back down the mountain and no luck finding the giant salamander. I looked all this morning and I've been stopping in all the little streams that I've been passing, looking on my way down. No luck. Now, I was here 10 years ago in the same spot and I found tons of them, which is why I came here. But as you can see behind me, it's sunny and it has been for quite some time. And why is that weird? Because we're in Washington on Mount Rainier and it's not usually sunny for extended periods of time. So what I'm thinking is it's been really dry and all the giant salamanders have gone deep underground, which is what salamanders do when it gets too hot. So we're gonna head back down to Lowlands and hopefully have some luck there. Later, I'll come to find out that this will be the area's third driest summer on record, with 29 consecutive days of no rain in Seattle. Well, I've made it back down off Mount Rainier. I'm in the lowlands now looking for the giant salamander. But along the way, I found a frog. And it looks like a pretty standard nondescript frog, but this is the red-legged frog. Ta-da! This isn't one of those suspenseful situations where I find the giant salamander at the last moment. I don't actually find one at all, but I keep looking for it until the very end. This is a picture of the giant salamander that I found here exactly 10 years ago. But this trip will turn out to be anything but a failure. Even though I didn't find the giant salamander, the creature that I'm about to cross paths with, I would have never expected and was about to make this trip well worth it. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, call it what you like, but it has absolutely nothing to do with this documentary. But this animal does. Well, it looks like I'm not going to be completely without cool creatures to show you. I'm still on my way down the side of Mount Rainier, and literally the biggest toad that I've ever seen just hopped across the path. And it's sitting right on the other side of that log. It is a whopper. Look at this thing. It's a western toad, and it's a female. And she's peeing on me. Look at this magnificent toad, though. Oh, I can feel her belly. It's full of food. This is the biggest toad I've ever caught in North America. In a lapse in memory, I failed to realize that in my native Colorado, we also have the western toad, but there we call it the boreal toad, and it's an extremely rare and endangered species. I could have kicked myself for letting this profound discovery hop off without savoring it. The western toad is disappearing from the planet so quickly that populations that were intact just a few years ago are now gone. When I realized what I had been holding, I scrambled back into the forest to find the female that I had just let go, to hold her one more time in case her kind would soon be gone forever. After crisscrossing the forest floor, I realized that I wouldn't find her again. At first I was sad, like losing a loved one without having said goodbye first. But this toad was plump and happy. Maybe there was a healthy population of western toads here that hadn't yet been hit by the unstoppable thing that's threatening to wipe them out. The chytrid fungus is an epidemic that's swiftly spreading across the planet and causing rapid extinctions in amphibian species. The Pacific Northwest has been particularly hard hit by chytrid. All of the frogs that I found on Mount Rainier, including the western toad, red-legged frog, and this Cascades frog, are species of concern. Amphibians from everywhere are being affected, though. The theory behind how the chytrid problem began is that it spread out of South Africa in the 1930s. A frog called Xenopus was exported around the world to be used as a pregnancy test of all things. Xenopus, which evolved with chytrid, was resistant to it. But when they were released into local streams, chytrid spread like fire throughout water systems and infected native frogs. Healthy amphibians may be able to resist chytrid, but the worldwide degradation of the environment has weakened their immune systems and facilitated the spread of chytrid. We've only known about chytrid since 1998. It's already caused the extinction of nearly 130 species of amphibians, and 1/3 of remaining species are in decline. It's amphibians' most characteristic feature that makes them so susceptible to chytrid: their permeable skin, through which they drink, breathe, and connect with any contaminant that might lurk within their environment. Chytrid causes their skin to thicken and become impermeable, resulting in death. So what happens if we lose all the frogs? It's most likely that animals low in the food chain that frogs eat will overpopulate, including all types of pests. Animals that depend on frogs as food will diminish or go extinct themselves, and so will each predator on up the food chain. Potentially, we could face the collapse of ecosystems and the extinctions of far more species than just amphibians. When I was 10 years old, I had a terrarium full of toads that I caught in the wild and brought home with me. They share the terrarium with frogs that I bought at the local pet store. Within a few months, the skin of the toads became unexplainably waxy and they died. It's amazing to me to think that I had a brush with what was most likely chytrid years before anybody knew what it was. Currently, there is no way to stop chytrid. However, if environmental degradation has in fact promoted the spread of chytrid, it may be possible to at least slow it down by consuming less and leaving a smaller environmental footprint. The news might be bad right now, but almost every accomplishment that mankind has ever made was once thought impossible. Solving the chytrid problem can be one of those accomplishments, and maybe some of you out there can be the ones to help do it.